Hello everyone, welcome back to Lucky Loaders 15, and in this video we're going to be previewing the Melbourne Cup, Australia's most famous horse race, and it's going to be in the early hours of tomorrow morning, 4 o'clock UK time, and I will be up to watch it, and it looks a really good renewal. A lot of good British and Irish horses going over for the race, and obviously there was an Irish winner last year with Rekindling for Joseph O'Brien, which was a really good moment for him in his training career so far. And I'm going to be going through a few stats and facts with horses that you might want to be backing in this race, look at some of the recent trends, and I'll be giving you, like I normally do in these previews, my top 3 selections for the big race. So to start with, I think one of the most interesting factors in this race is that if you want to win this race, the last 10 winners of this race have all won a group or graded race. So you're looking at horses that have got that little bit of star quality. Also as well, 10 out of 10 of the last winners have also won over a mile and 4 furlongs. So that rules out Cliffs of Moher, who's never won over that trip before, even though he has run some good races. 9 out of 10 horses have never carried more than 8 stone 9, so you want to be carrying a low weight to win this race. Also as well, 3-year-olds don't have the greatest record in this race. Rekindling was the first 3-year-old since 1941, I believe, to actually win this race. So if you're looking at the 3-year-old angle, they might make the places, but they don't often win. So that's definitely something to keep in the memory bank. Also as well, 8 of the last 10 renewals have had winners that have had a top 4 finish in their recent starts, on their last starts. So again, you're looking from that kind of angle, they want to be coming in with some form. Also as well, 7 out of 10 of the last winners have either been 4 or 5-year-olds, so that's the ideal age you want to be looking at. Even older horses don't have a particularly great record in this race, so that's something definitely to bear in mind. Also as well, you want to be drawn towards the middle of the track. In the last 10 renewals, the place to be has been between stall 4 and 13, as there's been 7 winners that have come from those stalls. But I don't think that necessarily means everything, but it's something you want to keep in the back of your mind. And also as well, Australian bred and New Zealand bred horses don't have a great record in this race. So that, again, you might want to be looking at kind of European horses. 7 of the last 10 winners have been bred outside of Australia and New Zealand. So there are a few interesting facts you want to keep in mind for when you're having a bet in this race. Like I said, I don't know a lot about Australian racing, but I think that you can use those statistics to help you, give you a good guide when trying to pick your selections or narrow down your selections if you want to have a bet in this race. So without further ado, I'm going to give you my number 1 selection. So this is my number 1. I actually did do some advice and some runners on the punters page in my latest Q&A, but I've kind of changed my mind a little bit since then. So if you've had a little bit of an anti-post fancy, I'm sorry, but this is going to be my final selection. So without further ado, my first selection is a horse called Finche. Now this one is 20 to 1 bookmakers at the moment, trained by Chris Waller, and Zach Perton is booked for the ride. Now this horse I thought was really interesting, and is one that's maybe kind of gone under the radar in the colours of the Judmont Group, who obviously had recent success with an able win in the Breeders' Cup. Now this horse used to be with Andre Farb and recently changed hands a couple of months ago, and I think this horse has been targeted specifically for this race, as Chris Waller ran it in the Geelong Cup, which is a trial for the Melbourne Cup, and our selection Finche ran a good race to finish 3rd in that race, carrying top weight, and it was running on really strongly at the end and was only just beaten. So I think it's going to go well. Bifranco as well, it's got the sexy pedigree. 8 stone 7 it's going to be carrying. Drawn stall 15, which isn't really that much of a bad draw really, and I could definitely see Finche at 20 to 1. Sky Bet in the UK are paying 7 places on this race, and I thought Finche could be a bit of a dark horse there, and I think this one, like I said, has been targeted for the race, but obviously quite a few of these horses have been targeted for the race, but I thought that was one that's maybe gone under the radar a little bit and will probably be my number 1. I just got a good feeling about Finche. I think Best Solution, however, will run a good race and is going to be my second selection, but might just lose out in the final stride. Was the winner of the Caulfield Cup and has won his last 4 starts. He's around about 11-1 shot at the moment, trained by Saeed bin Surur, and his normal jockey, who often rides in the UK, Pat Cosgrave, is put for the ride. Still 6th, the perfect start. He's 4 years old, like Finche, I should have mentioned, so he's in the perfect age category. Also, as well, he is going to be carrying the top weight though, so you might want to go against him on that aspect of things, but he's not carrying too much of a really heavy weight, so yeah, maybe put a line through that. But I thought Best Solution could really go well, and even though he's yet to run over 2 miles, I think in Australia it's a different type of racing. They go a lot quicker and the tracks are more sharper, so you can kind of get away with it. If it was more of a 2 mile race in the UK, I think that he would probably just struggle. But I thought Best Solution, if he can maybe put an early burst of speed in coming towards the end of the race, he might just be able to outlast quite a lot of the horses and should be in the top 3. I think he'll go really close. The third selection for me is Muntahaa, and he's 8-1 bookmakers at the moment, trained by John Gosden, I should say, and Jim Crowley's booked for the ride, who's come down for Australia specifically for this ride. He's had a few warm-up rides and actually had a few winners in those rides as well, so he comes in with a little bit of form. Won the Ebor, this horse did, in quite convincing style. It's got to be said. He absolutely swept home, and we know he's going to stay the 2 miles. Now, the only thing you would argue here is he's never really been a top quality horse, but he's one that might have been coming through the ranks of the handicap, and this is why in races like this you're kind of always looking for maybe the unknown horse that's maybe never quite delivered it. I thought Muntahaa really could go close, and he's been targeted for it, and the only concern with him though is the wide draw, which actually I know we did say about the draw statistics, but I think it doesn't really matter too much, even though the stats did show that it did pay to be strongly in the middle. So I would just be against Muntahaa to win because of that, but he could be running on strongly at the end. But like I said, I think he's going to run a really good race. It's really hard to predict what is exactly going to win the race, but I thought they were 3 horses that had really strong chances. Cross count, I just think the record of 3-year-olds is definitely off-putting for me, even though he's got some strong form, especially that Great Voltager working out well. Third in that was Kew Gardens, who went on to win the English St Ledger, and he ran a fair race in the Arc, so that form did work out quite well. But I'm just not convinced about Cross Count to maybe stay in the trip, and yeah, I think I would want to take him on, even though he is being well backed. So for me, it's going to be Finche number 1, maybe the under radar horse. Number 2 is Best Solution, and number 3 is Muntahaa. Let us know your picks for the Melbourne Cup. Obviously, it was a really hard race to work out, but I think those 3 runners could definitely give you a good running for your money. So that's all I got to say. If you haven't done so already, please hit the subscribe button for more horse racing videos. Also as well, you can follow me on Twitter. My handle is @LuckyLoaders15. Please gamble responsibly, and we'll be seeing you soon.